Welcome to another episode of the Ask Mrs. HR podcast. During this podcast, we talk about all things human resources, business, entrepreneurial, and today we have a special guest. I can't wait for you to meet her. So stay tuned. You're watching the Ask Mrs. HR podcast. All right, welcome back to, another episode of the Ask Mrs. HR podcast. This is our 8th episode. OMG. I'm so happy today to have a special, supernatural maybe guest, Carlin Hafiz. So why do I say she's supernatural? I mean, she has defied the odds. In 2013 and 2022, she was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. That's called TNBC. And she endured a double dose of surgery and chemotherapy and 1 dose of radiation, and today is cancer-free. Because of her walk with breast cancer, she has become a certified life and wellness coach, an herbalist, and a motivational speaker. So guess what? You're getting ready to hear from a motivational speaker who is the founder of and CEO of Haus of Sankofa, LLC, an apothecary that offers, did I say that right? Apothecary.
Yes.
That offers herbal formulas that are culturally inspired to support the health and well-being of the body. So as a coach, she teaches clients the importance of returning to their roots. I love that, to discover their body's innate healing power. So one thing you must know, and I'll let her tell you the rest, is another manifestation of Carlin's journey is the creation of the Pink Haus. So it's spelled TH with a 3 and Pink Haus, HAUS. This is a 501c3 nonprofit organization which raises the awareness about triple negative breast cancer, health screenings, and holistic practices that reduce the risk of the disease. So this hopefully, I think, will be a powerful episode. I can't wait to get into it with Carlin Hafiz. Welcome to the show, Carlin.
Oh, thank you. I was going to say welcome.
Welcome.
Yes,
No.
Thank you.
Well, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's beautiful outside, so it's always good when it's almost 80 degrees in December, right?
And you are glowing.
Thank you. It's the herbs, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, tell me about the herbs. You can tell me now.
So I have been taking herbs every day. I'm taking anywhere from 6 to 24. Just a regimen that I've been doing through a friend of mine. His name is Cameron Moore, and I'll get into him a little bit later. But yeah, so I feel good. Everyone tells me I look like I'm aging backwards.
You really do. And I don't know what you looked like before because we just met this year.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. And I've learned so much about you and the Pink Haus. At first, I didn't know what the Pink Haus. So tell me a little bit more. Tell us about the Pink Haus. Tell us a little more.
So the Pink Haus is my baby. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization supporting women of color who are currently going through breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer, or have been through triple negative breast cancer. And as you pointed out, it's spelled TH with a 3 because I have had triple negative breast cancer twice. And so I think this is really a great time to talk about the statistics, because triple negative breast cancer is the most aggressive form of breast cancer. And it accounts for 10 to 25% of all breast cancers.
Okay.
It's also 15 to 30% of breast cancers in Black women are triple negative. So
say that one more time.
Yes, 15 to 30% of all breast cancers in Black women are triple negative. Black and Latino women have a high recurrence risk of it as well. And also, we have worse clinical outcomes than white women. Yeah, it's very, very aggressive. And there are fewer effective treatments. So currently there are 3. And those 3, it's surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation.
Why do you think we're getting cancer or having these diagnoses, or why are we at this level in the statistics? Is it having treatment too late? Is it DNA, genetics? What is happening? Why?
Everything you named. And by the time we're diagnosed, it's already progressed. Stage 3, stage 4. Stage 4 is metastatic, so meaning that it has gone past the breast. So, and I will also say, it was interesting. My first diagnosis was in 2013. And I remember the radiologist said, Carlin, you're going to have one hell of a year. And she said, you are my third patient who was diagnosed with triple negative this week. And she said, and the one thing that all of us had in common was stress.
Stress kills.
Stress kills. Yeah.
How do you, okay, let's just back up a minute, because honestly, I'm going to just be real. This week, I was overwhelmed with blessings, overwhelmed with amazing things. However, I have a to-do list that's at least 50 miles long, and it stresses me out.
Right.
They're all things I like doing, like this podcast, like going to the grocery store. It could be anything. But how do you manage that? I mean, how do you, even when you have good things in your life, they can be stressful.
Right.
So how am I supposed to manage the stress?
You know what? I'm still trying to figure that out. I am still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I write everything down. So let me back up. I'm a Pisces. If you
Okay.
know anything about astrology, Pisces, we are all over the place, right? Structure just is not our thing, And I say that jokingly because almost every Pisces that I've met, we are such dreamers.
Yeah.
We just don't care about the rhyme or reason. And so, but I do like a little structure, right? So I will write it down.
Okay.
These are all of the things that I need to do. Then I prioritize them. And then I forget and I just do what I want. But I always come back to that list, right?
Okay.
And so I do have a 9 to 5.
I always forget you have a 9 to 5.
I know, right?
It is like, I just think the Pink House.
Yeah,
so you have a 9 to 5,
I
you
have
have
a
the
9 to
Pink
5.
House, and you have Sankofa.
And I have the
And
House
what
of
else?
Sankofa.
House of Sankofa.
And then I'm getting ready to launch a podcast.
And then you'll have a podcast. So please note, people who watched Ask Mrs. HR, we have a pattern. You must have 3 jobs to be on the show.
Right.
You cannot be here.
We can't forget a wife of 34 years.
And you must be trying to manage children and a husband
and a
or a
grandmother
spouse or a partner. Did you?
And 2 parents still on this earth, okay?
Wow.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I need you to give a close-up on her face. The grandmother and... Wow.
Right,
But I think there is a pattern here. I mean, these are the people, I believe God is calling me to put people who inspire other people. I know it sounds a little basic when I said it out loud.
But
how inspirational. I have so many people, especially working in human resources, they're struggling with one job.
Right.
One job, doing nothing. They're not on boards. They're not doing nonprofit work. They're just trying to do that one job. And then most of the people on this Ask Mrs. HR podcast, they have one job, 2 nonprofits, children, grandchildren. I just had this epiphany, like this starting to be this pattern. So, okay, back to you.
Right.
Wow.
So, I'll be honest too. Another statistic about triple negative breast cancer too is that it has the poorer prognosis and shorter survival, than other types of breast cancer. So it's typically a 5-year survival rate, and for TNBC is 8 to 16%. And it has the highest recurrence risk. So the first time I went from 2013 to 2022, almost 10 years without a recurrence. Yeah. And I was so grateful, and I thought, oh, this is great, right? Because I made it past 5 years. And the second time, I'm a year out. So I have 4 more years. Wow. And so when you mentioned, having your hands in so many things, The first time I kind of walked away from it. I got excited. I said, you know what? God spared my life. I'm going to move forward. This is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I crashed, and I did not want to be associated with breast cancer.
Mm.
But you know how when God is just, you hear that little that bee,
Yes.
that fly in your ear.
Yes.
And so I still ignored it, right? I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
ignored it, and I thought, and then I decided 2020, let me go ahead, create House of Sankofa. Let me do the herbal stuff,
Right.
which is something that's innate, been doing forever, and still didn't really walk
Mm-hmm.
the walk in the breast cancer arena.
Mm-hmm.
People would
Yeah.
call, I would talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
no big deal. So I guess 2022, God said, enough. You're
Like you're
not
not
listening.
listening nor
Yeah.
paying attention.
Yeah. But the amazing thing
Yeah.
is most stories, when triple negative comes back,
Mm.
it's stage 3 or 4, again, metastatic.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it came back smaller than the first
Okay.
time.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 I just need you to know and I think this is how I would be absolutely terrified.
Oh, yeah.
I
Every
don't even
day.
understand that level of terror. I mean, I
Yeah.
I check myself. I'm like, oh, because I have this weird reaction to coffee, to caffeine. And have you ever heard of women who, when they drink caffeine, you feel like you have lumps in your breast?
Well, because
What is that?
yeah, the caffeine adds to the breast density.
Mm,
And you know what? And I have it every day. And today I said was the last day. Girl, I'm drinking mushroom coffee.
that's
And
what I
and
drink. I love,
but
yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's
yeah,
still caffeine, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah,
I did say, I'm looking at the camera because
yeah,
today
yeah.
was my
Look at the
last
camera.
day drinking
Okay,
coffee,
hold her
for a
accountable.
while. For a while.
Well,
Because
why
I'll do
do you
that.
do
I'll
you
do that.
really need coffee?
You know, I just like the way it tastes.
What
I
about
just
some? You
like
know
it.
what? I started drinking the black tea, any type of dark
Okay.
tea, and I make it like a mushroom coffee or
Mm-hmm.
coffee with no caffeine. So there's one. It's a chai tea with no
Mm-hmm.
caffeine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Okay,
like chai
so
teas?
here's the thing.
Okay.
They always say no caffeine, but trust me,
Mm,
there's a smidget.
they're just
Just
trying to
very,
kill
just like decaf
it. Yeah, yeah,
coffee,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
still a little bit of caffeine in it.
yeah, yeah.
I love teas.
Okay,
I
so you
love
like
teas.
teas, but
Oh
there's still
yeah.
caffeine in the tea.
Just a little, a little.
Okay.
But I love, so my go-to in the
Mm-hmm.
mornings outside of coffee,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm just gonna, have tea, I'll
Mm-hmm.
have a stinging nettles, because
Ooh, what's that?
nettles is nourishing. It's really
I
good.
don't know what a nettles
Oh yeah,
is.
I know. It's so
What's a
good. It's
nettles?
so good.
What's a
It's
nettles?
it's a nourishing tea. Herb.
So it's a
Herb.
herb. A
Yes, an
nettle is a
herb.
plant.
Uh-huh. Yes, it is a plant. And I'll mix it with holy basil,
What?
which is, oh,
And
so
that's
good.
another
Tulsi,
plant called holy
another.
basil. Do you have a book about
Another.
this?
I will be happy. Yes,
Okay,
one is
you need.
coming
I
out.
need
I
to know.
have an
I've
ebook.
never heard of holy basil.
And
I
peppermint.
never. Okay, I heard of peppermint.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So how do
Mm-hmm.
you even find these herbs? Where do you find?
So, okay, as a
Is
little
it
girl, I
okay?
would watch my grandmother literally
Mm-hmm.
walk outside and pick dandelions in the out of the yard, right? And she
Yes.
would
Yes.
take them in, clean them, and put them in the oven. And
Wow.
so
Yeah.
later
Yeah.
on, I see her drinking tea. So of course I
Mm-hmm.
want tea, not even realizing it was
It was the dandelions.
the dandelions she had picked out of the yard earlier that day. And so just watching my
Yeah.
grandmother do that, watching my mom,
Mm-hmm.
my aunts. So it's just like I said, it's something that's just
Wow.
natural for me.
So I had two thoughts. This is how my brain works. I got
Okay.
50,000 things going through my head. So first I got mad.
Uh-huh.
Why you say, why would you get mad over dandelions? Because they teach us they're weeds and to kill them.
Right.
And then so
Exactly.
I learned as I got older that dandelions are good for you.
Yeah.
And I had this one woman, I hung out with her for a day at a conference, and she went on and on. She was like the Forrest Gump of dandelions. She's like, and then I make dandelion patties, and then I make
Yeah.
dandelion tea, and
Mm-hmm.
then I make
Mm-hmm.
dandelion for my dad. And I was like, and she's like,
Yeah.
she was telling me like 20 different ways to make
To
to
make
make a
dandelion.
dandelion. And I
Yeah.
said, oh my good, I felt so mad though.
Yeah.
Mad is my first emotion typically
Mm-hmm.
anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But mad, I was mad like, all these years we had healing properties in our
Yes.
backyard growing,
Right
and they're
there.
telling us to kill them
Yeah.
and spray them
Yeah.
with pesticides.
Mm-hmm. Get them out of the yard because it's a nuisance.
Mm-hmm.
So where I'm from,
Mm-hmm.
so really I'm from Olathe, Kansas, but the big city is Kansas City, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And you see burdock, is it not burdock? Red clover, and I think it is
Red
burdock
clover.
root, is
Burdock.
growing wild in Kansas City. So one of the things through the years, I've always studied herbs under different teachers, right? It started with my family, and then I've gone out to other people just to learn more.
Yes.
And I just, man, the medicinal properties. So my favorite flower, sunflowers.
Oh, I love sunflower too. Me too.
But guess what?
What?
So one of my grandbabies had a little eye infection, and I put together some sunflowers, aka calendula, and made a little eye solution for her that cleared up her little eyes.
I'm done.
From sunflowers.
They don't tell us nothing. I'm just mad. Yeah. I'm mad again.
Yeah. You know.
So all this, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. There used to be this book, Back to Eden.
I've heard about that book.
And my mother-in-law, shout out to Shirley, because that was the one book. I don't know if she read any other books, but she sure read Back to Eden, and it talked about different herbs. And I always was drawn to it, but then I never read it. But it sounds like I definitely hear a book I need to know.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the podcast you're going to. So tell me about this podcast you're producing.
Okay, so it's called It's Carlin D with the T. So a really good friend of mine, Tabitha Brown, we were at lunch one time, and I said, I want to start this podcast, and I want to, talk about my life through the lens of a 2-time triple negative breast cancer survivor. And so it was Tabitha and another one of my best friends here, Karen. Karen Lydé Smith. We were talking. And Tabitha said, "Why don't you call it It's Carlin D with the T?" Because she knows I'm into the herbs. And I said, "You know what?
That makes so much sense."
Yes. So, again, it's life through my eyes, right?
Yeah.
And it's about some of the natural herbs, natural ways, different things that I've done, along my journey. And also, I want to highlight other women who are going through the journey or have gone through it, and just talk about, some of the things that they've used.
Well, I want to be on the podcast.
Oh, you're going to be on the podcast.
But let me tell you what happened to me. It's always amazing because it's totally God, because I don't know what I'm doing half the time. People look and they think I'm so put together that I know. But what happened was I was going through different hormonal issues. And another friend of mine, she had fibroids. And then I started having fibroids. Long story short, I said, let me experiment and just remove beef from my diet. And around the same time, I said, and let me remove dairy. I immediately felt better. I'm not trying to look, beef people don't come for me because look, that's your thing. But I stopped eating beef, and then I stopped eating dairy. Then a few years, then one day, random thing, and I know it's God because it makes no sense. It's the Holy Spirit, I always say, when it's something that I wouldn't normally do. So I just thought I had this perversion to chicken.
Yeah.
When does that happen? I'm not the only woman that has had this story. And one day I'm like, this is gross. Like looking at a chicken be plucked or cooked or anything, it just turns my stomach, and I don't know what is that about.
So I have a story. Okay. So I was living in Kansas City, and I was at work, and where I worked right across the street was Sonic. Have you ever heard of Sonic?
Yeah, Sonic, the fast food, drive up. Yes. Yeah, they roller skate sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. So before I left my house, I'm cooking beef bacon for breakfast because I don't eat pork.
Yeah.
And then for lunch, I went across the street to Sonic, and I had a hamburger.
Of course.
Right? And so I'm eating beef like crazy. I'm eating all this beef, and this is all pre-cancer, right?
Yeah.
And I kid you not, I picked the sandwich up to take a bite, and it mooed at me. It mooed. I think that was
Oh,
my
I
body
thought I had a
saying,
story.
my body was like,
Woo.
enough is enough. And I stopped eating beef that day. I stopped and have
Okay.
not looked back.
What is that about?
I think it's our bodies. When you
That is
really pay
deep.
attention to your body, I know when you pay
Where did this
attention,
happen?
your
Yeah.
body will tell you what it likes and what it
Yes.
doesn't like. Just like breast cancer, the first time I was going to Bikram yoga, and I was so happy because I finally was able to put my arms behind my back and lift my arms up. But there was one particular day I couldn't. And I got to feeling under my arm and I felt the lump.
Oh, I was
And
gonna.
so, but I know my body well enough to
Yeah.
know that, hey, wait a minute,
Something
this
ain't
is not
right.
right.
Something ain't right.
And so immediately I started checking my breast.
Yeah.
Still, there was nothing there, right?
Yeah.
And so when you know your body,
Yeah.
and when you listen to your body will tell you, hey, no more chicken,
Yes.
or no more rice, or no more.
Yes.
And so that's what happened. I stopped
Yeah.
eating beef, and 2016, What the Health came out.
That's right.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that
I watched that
changed
twice.
a lot. I watched
Yes.
it. Girl, my husband came home. I would have stuff paused like, you need to read this or listen to this,
Yes.
because he's such a, I need protein, protein. And so I stopped eating chicken that day. Yeah. However,
All right.
when I had surgery, so my second diagnosis of triple negative in November 22, and I had a 9-hour surgery in 2023, February. And my doctors encouraged me to go back to eating chicken so that I would heal faster and heal better. And I thought, do I really want to do this?
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
I did. And I'm off of it again.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
you listen.
yeah.
Yeah, I would have been trying to negotiate. Can I have fish? Can I have shrimp?
Well, I'm eating fish. I'm eating turkey,
Yeah.
but I
They
understood the
wanted you to have
assignment,
to.
right?
Yeah.
Because when you talk
Yeah.
to I'm talking to my oncologist, I'm talking to the nutritionist, my heart doctor, all the doctors, right? The breast surgeon, plastic surgeon, everyone has the same message: more protein to heal.
And I think the issue isn't really the chicken because and this is my opinion. I'm not a doctor. This is not FDA approved.
Right.
But it's the way we produce chicken here in the United States, the hormones that are in the chickens. So when I visited Africa, those were some tiny little chickens, okay? They were not some big, gigantic 20-pound chickens.
Right.
Their regular chickens are small, typically. They're not big, like kind of like raptors,
right?
Like what they were eating.
Yeah.
And so you can see the hormones in the chicken. And then, anyhow, I think everything God made is good.
Absolutely.
However, there's certain things that our body just doesn't need.
Right.
We just don't need it. And I think a lot of times our digestive system needs time to rest, just like your body,
Yeah.
Because one thing I'm learning, and you could talk more about it, is the gut mind connection.
Yes.
What you know about that?
Mind body spirit connection.
Yes.
So this is I'm so excited because I'm hoping that Cameron, so Cameron Moore is who I met. He is the owner of Beyond Vegan Eats in LA. And amazing. He studied, he studied under Dr. Sabi. So all of the foods that he cooks are alkaline.
Why don't I know about this place?
There's a lot of people that don't know about him. So my cousin introduced me to him.
Eats.
Yes.
I'm going to put it in the notes.
Yes.
Beyond Vegan Eats.
Beyond Vegan
Put it in the
Eats.
notes for
and
myself.
He will be on my podcast.
Okay,
So I'm
awesome.
really excited because he has just done some amazing work with the likes of the superstars all the way down to, people like me, and
But you're a superstar too.
Yeah, well, thank you. But I, and just meeting him has really changed my whole perspective of my temple, right?
Yeah.
Because this is all we have, right? And when really take care of your body and you really just think about the blessing, you know, the blessing of being able to see, being able to hear,
Yes.
being able to walk, being able to move your fingers,
Yes.
right? There's so many people out here who do not have, you know, fingers, toes,
Right.
you know, but they
Yeah.
are still so grateful.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I've done quite a bit is I've sat in the dark, right?
Okay.
So we just bought a house in March of this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's a big house, right? So
Nice.
it's just why we bought this big house, girl, our kids, everybody. We just have our 25-year-old at home. But anyway, and so when my husband and my daughter are gone and it's dark, and I'm like, oh, it's creepy because I'm still, you know, filling out this new space, right? And so I turn off the lights, the TV, just so that I can sharpen my senses, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've watched too much TV.
Yeah.
I watched too much TV, right? Enough.
do too.
That's movie enough where she had to learn her home and she had to really like use her senses, her ears, her smell, her sight. And so I thought, okay, let me do that same thing. And when I do that, I do it in gratitude, right? Because again, I'm grateful because God didn't have to spare my life. It's been twice now that I've been hit with this major, nasty, ugly disease. And so that's the thing. So for me, being in silence and in that darkness, that is a mind body spiritual connection because I get to really focus and my eyes, and it's amazing when you do that, how your eyes adjust and you can see things in the dark. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
you know, and so, and then it's your mind, right? Because
Yeah.
once the chatter stops, like who's in here? What is that noise? What's happening? Then my mind connects to my eyes, right? I can see, I feel good.
Right.
And then I can hear, and those sounds are no longer scary.
Right.
I can identify that, oh, that's the refrigerator. Oh, that's the heater. Oh, it's just the house settling. Right? And to me, that is a mind body and the spiritual connection because then the spiritual comes in and I have no fear.
Yeah.
I faced everything and rise.
I love that. That's one, I practiced that one time. Well, I learned it one time, and I do it at night when I can't sleep. And I'll close my eyes because my brain or something, I don't even know if it's my brain, I don't know what it is, telling me I can't sleep. I need to watch TV until I go to sleep. And then what I started doing, I don't do it enough, is say, like, turn off the TV and just close your eyes and listen. And by the time I start listening, like you said, to the different sounds, I could hear, you know, sounds outside, I'm asleep because it relaxes me. But I don't do that enough. And honestly, between that and having a regimen in the morning, that's what helps me ease my anxiety. I never thought I was an anxious person until I started going to therapy. And my therapist was like, "You're anxious." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not anxious."
Yeah.
I might be combative too.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, but you know, that
But
anxiety is...
You don't know you have anxiety sometimes because you just, it's like when I lived in New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey most of my life. When I moved to South Carolina, where there was Sonics.
You had the Sonics there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And
tater tots are the bomb.
Oh,
Oh,
no. I used to take my
And the
kids
onion
there.
rings.
Well, I gained 20 pounds living in the South.
Of course, but it was fun.
It
was fun.
I had lots of biscuits.
And that's when our metabolism was working, and so you could get it off. Now,
well,
it's a struggle.
It is a
Try
struggle.
that on top of menopause.
I'm enjoying being voluptuous.
Right.
I know. I can't even imagine with chemo and radiation.
It was nasty.
I don't like needles or anything. So not enough about me. So God, I mean, I'm just so grateful to hear your story and the story of resilience and just so what did you tell yourself during those times when you were at your lowest moments?
Oh man, so the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and every time I share this story, I get emotional. So bear
Mm,
with me
that's
through this
okay.
little ride. So the first time, I had a lumpectomy, and it was a 4 centimeter tumor that was found in the left breast. And I had 6 lymph nodes removed from under my arm, and only
Mm-hmm.
one had cancer. So thank
Mm-hmm.
God. So that was known as stage 2B.
Mm-hmm.
So I think going through chemo at that time after the surgery and everything, I was just not excited, but I was like, let's get it done. Let's
Mm-hmm.
get it done. But then and I was going every other week. So
Mm-hmm.
it was very aggressive. And I had this one chemo drug called adriamycin, also known as the Red Devil.
Oh,
Brutal. Brutal.
why is it brutal?
Because it's one that gets in there, it wreaks havoc. It can cause heart issues years later. Just a drop of it can pierce down to the bone. Like it's very, very strong, to the point where when the I don't even know what you call the guy who brought in the chemo, but
Mm-hmm.
it had
Mm-hmm.
the crossbones, the skeleton on it, like
Mm.
hazardous, and yeah.
Hazmat.
And so the lady,
Mm.
I'll never forget the lady next to
Mm-hmm.
me. It was being administered, and she was throwing up. So I remembered saying to myself, not my story, not my story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just
Mm-hmm.
remembered when Roxanne, I love Roxanne, who was my nurse at the time. She said, okay, Carlin, we're getting ready to do this. And it wasn't a drip. She had to literally stand there and push it through. And I
Wow.
remember going into a deep meditation, and I was gone, like, just mentally gone. And I heard her say, okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
done.
Mm-hmm.
And when I opened my eyes, everyone's looking at me to
Mm-hmm.
see, was I going to throw up? What was my
Mm-hmm.
reaction? And my reaction was great.
Mm.
I did
Yeah.
well with
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? Didn't throw up, didn't get sick. So
Mm.
going through that, and and then you asked me, how did I deal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, um a couple of treatments later, one morning, I did not want to get out of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered my mother came in the room and said she was getting ready to make me breakfast. I said I didn't want any breakfast that day.
Mm.
And I just remembered laying there, and I wanted to die. I did. I wanted to die. I
Yeah.
did not want to go through that
Yeah.
again,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I knew I'm not one who likes medication. I'm an
Yeah.
herb girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will find an alternative. But in this
Mm-hmm.
case, I couldn't,
Mm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And I laid in the bed for days. I didn't shower. I just didn't care. I
Yeah.
didn't care. And it was time to go to chemo again. And so my grandmother, who is deceased,
Mm-hmm.
I believe she came to me.
Mm-hmm.
I literally heard my grandmother's voice, and she said, "Get up. Get up."
Mm.
And I'm like looking
Wow.
around like, "Okay, grandma." And she
Yeah.
said, "Get up. You have life to live. You have
Wow.
children. You get up
Wow.
and get out of this bed." And I felt her.
Yeah.
I felt her. So I
Mm-hmm.
got up, I
Mm-hmm.
got in the shower, and I would go and sit in the living room.
Yeah.
And so that was that moment. I just did not, for about a week, I was just like, I don't want to be here, because I don't want to do this.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, was that the same grandmother with the dandelion?
Yep. My mom's mom. Yep.
Wow. What's her name?
Juanita Locke.
Juanita Luck. Wow.
My Grammy.
I totally can relate to that. I've had some hard times in my life and even good times, and I can hear my grandmother talking to me. Um, it's just almost Joel Osteen says that it's not out loud, but it's in here.
Yeah.
But I can hear her voice. Sometimes I can
Right.
even smell her.
Yes, me too. And I used to
I'm
catch
like,
the Metrolink to
yeah,
work
yeah,
because I
yeah.
work downtown. And one day I was on the train and the sun just came out of nowhere. Just,
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like it followed me,
Yeah.
right? And I swear I felt her hands hold my face
I
and I
believe it.
smelled her. And I was like, and I called my mom and I said, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've learned I
Yeah.
can't share this with everybody, even though we're sharing it with probably thousands of people who might be watching
Right.
eventually.
Yeah.
But I just want to encourage anyone listening. A lot of times, I know for me, I was always afraid that of a spirit or spirits or someone talking to me. And I just have learned that you need to lean in because that can really be where your breakthrough is, like how you
Oh,
described your
yeah.
breakthrough.
Yeah.
I believe spirits are real. I don't know how they work. Don't ask me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they sure have carried me. My grandparents and even my dad, who wasn't a
Mhm.
religious person, he's like, go girl. I don't know what
Mhm.
he's saying, but I could feel his spirit
Yeah.
pushing me forward. Wow. Well, that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
amazing. So anyone going through cancer right now
Mhm.
and they're in their early stages, what would you recommend for them right now?
Hold on tight, embrace
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
no one wants to get diagnosed with this disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you say cancer,
Mm-hmm.
everyone automatically puts you in a grave, and I kept it a secret the first time
Yeah.
for that very reason. I didn't want people to know. But, cancer really, it's a blessing. I know that
Mm-hmm.
sounds
It does.
crazy,
Yeah.
but it is a blessing because for some of us, it's that fork in the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and it's what path are you going to choose?
Yeah.
And for me, it was get it together. Get it together. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um I just had so much going
Yeah.
on. So typically we take care of other people and we
Yes.
never take care of ourselves,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so cancer it made me take a step back and look at what is it that Carlin needs?
Right.
What is it that Carlin wants? What is Carlin's life like? All I could tell you, my favorite color was purple.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
grew up here. I've got this.
Yeah.
But who was I really on the inside? It was
Yes.
my first memory of sunflowers. I grew up in Kansas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it took me going through cancer to realize how happy I was being around
Right.
sunflowers. And that sunflower was my favorite flower, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it made me just take a step back and look at me and who
Mm-hmm.
I am and what it is that I want. I wanted to touch on the spiritual component
Mm-hmm.
real
Sure.
quick.
Sure.
So I believe too, like you, that
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents speak to me, aunts, uncles, those who have gone on, our
Right.
ancestors. And for me, house spelled Haus.
Yes.
Well, House of Sankofa came to me, the Pink Haus came to me. And I have these conversations with my mother a lot
Mm-hmm.
because my mom is one of 13.
Mm-hmm.
She's number 7. That
Mm-hmm.
7 is a lucky number, right? You can't break it down. It's God's number and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mother has intuition, right? All
Mm-hmm.
women do, but
Mm-hmm.
some of us feed into it a little more. And so, and I remembered saying to my mom, I would wake up with these herbal blends, have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what these herbs are doing, what they're for.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember calling my mom and saying, Grandma Mary, who is that? And
Mm-hmm.
so she told me who Grandma Mary was.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma Mary was my mom's mother
Wow.
who had passed on.
Mm-hmm.
And so spelling it Haus. So I decided I'm going to do African ancestry
Okay.
so that I could find out my roots,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so I ended up doing my mother's side.
Mm-hmm.
Get this.
I'm listening.
So I'm tracing mom's side. The results come back. It took them 12 weeks. Typically, it's like they said 10. It
Yeah.
took an
Yeah.
extra 2 for me
Mm-hmm.
because we come from 4 different tribes, and this is the maternal
Mm-hmm.
side.
Mm-hmm.
One of those tribes, Hassa,
Oh
Hausa.
no.
Yes, the
Wow.
Hassa tribe.
The hospital.
So that meant that my mother's mother's mother,
Mm-hmm.
Grandma Mary,
Yeah.
came from the Haus
House
of
of
tribe.
Tribe. House.
So I
Wow.
felt like she was
Yeah.
communicating with me about, I know, right?
That's a lot.
Right. That's a lot. That's
That's a
deep.
lot. It really is. And
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but I
I don't
feel like
either.
everybody in my life, we're having these revelations
It's
and
time.
connections
It's
and
time.
ancestors are
Yeah.
talking and spirit. I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost like we're being held up by these forces,
Right.
positive, spiritual, positive forces.
Right. Right.
I don't
right.
know how to explain it. I don't.
I don't either,
But
but
it's
you
all
know,
these connections. It's God incidents, not
yes,
coincidence.
yes,
Because it's like
God, yes,
you can't
yes.
even make it up.
And so going back
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, someone newly diagnosed,
Mm-hmm.
just hold on and
Yeah.
find your anchor.
Yeah.
Find that grounding, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to be on a ride and your mind has to be strong,
Yeah.
your body has to be strong, and your belief
Yes.
has to be strong.
Well, one thing I want to touch on, because we are human resources,
Mhm.
you know, human resources is the core of what I do,
Right.
is family medical leave and leaves. And I just want to kind of talk to the audience, talk to you. I know you have a kind of a 9 to 5. You know how to use your
Yeah.
benefits, right?
Yes.
You know.
Well,
Do
you know
you?
what?
I'm
Kind
sorry.
of, sort of. So it
Okay.
was interesting. A friend of mine, God rest her soul, Tina
Mhm.
Lowry, she has
Mhm.
since passed away from triple negative breast cancer.
Mhm.
She was a huge advocate because she had been diagnosed before, a year before my first diagnosis.
Mhm.
She had triple negative. And before I started chemo, she said, Carlin, go to HR and this is
Mhm.
what you do. And so I said, okay.
Yes.
And it was because of her and her knowledge, right, and
Mhm.
the research she had done, then she was able to pass it on to me.
Good.
And so I really can't remember, you know, I had to ask you the
Yeah,
name
yeah,
because I didn't
yeah.
know what
It's
it
okay.
was.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned that, oh, okay, I can
Right.
still work, but I can take time off.
Mhm.
And, you know, because what I didn't want to do is take all along like 6 weeks. Like I didn't want to do that because I know my
Right.
mind,
Yeah.
and my mind would have gone down a rabbit hole, right?
Right.
And I don't
Right.
know if I would have survived, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's not, I believe it's not that, for me, it wasn't going to be the tumor that would
Mhm.
take me out,
Mhm.
or the chemo. It would be my mindset
Right.
succumbing to,
Yeah.
you know.
That would be my fear too.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the benefits. I won't get too deep into it, but I
Yes,
really
because
want
we're
to
going to
make.
talk about that on my podcast.
Okay. Yes. And I'll have more information for your
Yes.
podcast, and hopefully a downloadable, like
Yes.
quick fact sheet that you
Yes.
could share with your audience and
Right.
people who may be going through a diagnosis of anything. So in general, this is the one time of a few times where I really recommend you build a relationship with human resources. So you don't even have to forget that. You don't even have to have a relationship. You just
Right.
want to call them, like you said, and use HR to tell you where the benefits are, the company's policies. This is so crucial when you're going through any type of what they call disability. Like, you know,
Right.
being diagnosed with cancer would be considered having a disability.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act,
Oh, nice.
which is a federal law. When you have a disability,
Mm-hmm.
you're also protected under the Family Medical Leave Act,
Mm-hmm.
which is also a federal law that applies to employers with 50 or more employees. But in California, even if you don't have 50 employees, you have CFRA, and this is one thing we talked about on the other podcast, which is the California Family Rights Act.
Oh,
And if you
wow.
don't have that, you have paid sick leave and other time. And there's disability leave. So there's almost like 4 different options
Mm-hmm.
when you're diagnosed that your employer has to honor. Now, some of these may be unpaid instead of paid, but the point is you should be able to maintain your job.
Right.
So
Right.
that's kind of just a quick overview. But,
Yeah.
you know, unfortunately, I mean, a lot of times with the employers I've worked with and people I've worked with, when the owner or leadership found out that someone had cancer or a terminal type of that what would be considered terminal illness, which yours was not terminal and it will never be.
Amen. Yes.
A lot of times we come together and we create new policies. So we've created new policies around cancer, because guess what? Some people don't know this, but benefits are really a perk. An employer can make up whatever benefits they want.
Really? I did not know that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's up to them.
Okay.
And if they want to expand on a certain benefit and say, well, we have a special program for people with cancer, this is what we do. Or, they have programs for women who are having babies. They may want to have a special program for the men that they can do that. So sometimes I'm speaking to you HR people who need to step it up. You know who you are. You can start working on expanding policies so that they really serve the people in your company the way you want them to. And last thing I'll say, one company, I won't say the name, we had a few employees who had cancer, because it was over 15,000 people. So unfortunately, the odds were we would have some of those. We created a fund.
Oh, wow.
Because even though they had benefits, they may need a lump sum of money to help pay for any situations at the hospital or care. So what happened was the CEO, one day they might look at this, I won't say who you are, but the CEO created a fund in his name that covered people. He said, just tell them, call me, I got them covered.
Oh, wow.
That happened like over a dozen times where he just was like, I'll pay for, he didn't tell all 15,000 employees, but I knew that CEO was going to pay for everything related to their cancer treatment.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So CEOs, be better.
Yeah. And you know what? And so that's another segue into patient advocacy.
Yes.
You have to have a seat at the head of the table. If you're not at the head of the table, have a seat at the table.
Yes.
It's your life.
Yeah.
It's your life. You're in the driver's seat. I always say that, this is your life, right? And so learn all of these things. Learn about your benefits. Listen to the doctors talk about what they want to do, suggest what they want to do. Go get a second opinion. Listen, my second diagnosis, I had 5 opinions, and 3 of them happened to be
Please
family
repeat
members.
this. Guess what? This is okay now.
Yes.
I'm not mad now. I'm just aggravated.
Yeah.
So here, when I talk to a lot of my friends and family and they get that one diagnosis, they do not get a second opinion. I'm like, why? And I think, honestly, I'm at an age, I don't care that much. I think it's just straight up laziness.
Yeah.
Go call somebody.
I think it might be fear.
I'm mad, so I'm going to say lazy. You're just lazy.
I think it might be fear because I think, you find out that, oh no, I have cancer, or oh no, I have sarcoidosis or something, right? And it's like, oh my God. And sometimes you feel defeated, right?
Okay.
But
See,
I think the first time my husband's cousin is a pediatric oncologist. So she was my second opinion. She took all my films, everything, spoke to her team in Atlanta.
Nice.
And, and I trusted her opinion, and I did it. Now, my oncologist, here's another blessing. The oncologist that I had, and I love my oncologist, Dr. Juan Alcantar. He's an advisor to my board. I love him. He's the same oncologist I still have to this day.
Yeah.
And so as I've learned more about breast cancer and about treatment and all those things, I'm constantly asking him questions, and he always answers. And there are times when we bumped heads because I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And he's sending things. So, and when I say sending things, my second diagnosis, it was stage 1A. That means it was under, I think it was maybe 3 millimeters, like super, super tiny.
Yeah.
And this time I had a naturopathic doctor, Dr. Price, Sam Price. And so I was like, no, I don't need to have chemo. I'm not doing chemo.
Yeah.
And he said, Carlin, it's triple negative again. Right? So, and I read the statistics, right? It's fast growing, high recurrence risk, poor prognosis. And I'm like, no. And so he said, okay, he made an appointment for me to speak to the head of oncology at UCLA, breast oncology. So I met with her. She broke it down, gave me statistics, called my cousin again, called my sister, who is a nurse practitioner, and my oncologist also made me an appointment with an oncologist at the City of Hope.
Wow.
So I had all
You
of these
just have
people.
everybody.
Yeah. And I still was
That's
like,
amazing.
I don't know. And it wasn't until not only did I look in the eyes of my 3 children.
I was just getting ready to tap into your children, but you go ahead.
Those grandbabies.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because at the time it was just the 2 girls.
Yeah.
And I looked at those grandbabies and I said, all right.
You're going to get it.
Do it again.
You're going to do it.
But I did it with natural remedies as well. So I did what they call integrative medicine. So but again, it's important to have a seat at the table, have those conversations with your team. And if your doctor, team, that includes your breast surgeon, your oncologist, your general practitioner, if they're not listening to you or if you feel like you're not being heard, you have every right to get another doctor. Every right to get another doctor.
This is a real problem that we have. And I recently, the client, if you're listening, I won't say who you are, but I recently did a justice, equity, and diversity and inclusion training. It's called JEDI training. It's in my book, The Diversity Dilemma. But I recently did a JEDI training for a group of clinicians, clinic workers rather. And the reason I did the training was because they were having a 100% incident rate from African women who felt like they were being unheard, and they were being aggressive to those African American women, period. Wow. Just 100%. Yeah. All of the incidents were from African American women complaining that they didn't feel heard. This is so real. It's almost it's almost like we're not being heard, that we're not being heard.
Right.
How many times can we say we're not being heard? So I shared with that group when I was doing the training that I had shingles about 3 years ago, probably from stress, because I didn't even know I was stressed out.
Yeah.
And I told my doctor, I think I have shingles, and she just totally dismissed me. A white woman, white doctor. And I had to beg, threaten to get into the office for her to see me close up. And then when I got there, immediately she said, oh, yeah, you have shingles. But, the implications of that, she didn't really give me good treatment. She didn't give me medicine or cream for the area of my face that was affected, and it was affecting my eye. So my eye was totally affected. It was like, at one point I couldn't see out of my eye. It was, but then when I went to my eye doctor, he noticed the scarring in my eye, and he said, did you have drops or anything? I said, not once did she mention I should have drops. She told me it would just work its way through.
Yeah.
Like it'll just work itself out. And I thought, I guess that's what shingles. So I guess, I just finished calling everybody lazy. I was also lazy, and I should have got a second opinion. Yeah. However, I did get a new doctor.
Yes.
And I do have a Black female doctor. And unfortunately, call it racist, call it whatever you want. Right. I feel heard when I'm talking to my Black female doctor. She was the first doctor out of over 50 years. I won't say exactly how old I am, but
girl, be proud of that.
I'm 54.
Yes, be proud of that.
But almost 50. I found her like 50. I was 50 years old when I found her. Never had any doctor gone through my medical history with me.
Wow.
You know how they give you that sheet of paper and they say, check, cancer, check this, and then you give back the paper. But no one ever,
and they didn't go over it. Wow.
Nobody ever went over that with me.
Wow.
Until I met, isn't that terrible?
That is terrible, because what's a blessing too? Listen, I look at all my blessings, counting my blessings, right? And all of my doctors are doctors of color. All of them.
I couldn't even find one.
Except for
really
my breast surgeon, but she was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she was amazing. Now, I did have an issue with my first breast surgeon. the very first one.
Okay.
And he white male.
Mm-hmm.
But when I said, nope, I'm not coming, I'm done, immediately he called, apologized profusely for what happened. And because he was really good at, what he does and did at the time, I stuck with him.
Yeah.
And he did an amazing job.
I was doing some research around the American Medical Association, and they did a survey that most white doctors believe that Black people have thicker skin. This was in 2022. And they believe because we're darker, our skin is thicker. Isn't that unbelievable?
It is unbelievable.
Today.
It's
not
unbelievable.
1900,
Yeah,
not 1750.
Right.
We're talking about 2022.
So I had my surgery February of 2023. And as I was leaving the hospital, it was this cute Asian guy who was helping me out.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and I said to him, I recently came across something that stated that basically what you were saying, but that doctors really did not give us medication, us being Black women, medication, because they feel we have a high tolerance for pain.
They do. That's a study.
And do you know, as I'm waiting for my we're waiting in the pharmacy at UCLA, and I said this to him, and he came around the wheelchair and looked at me. He said, "Carlin, it's still like that. It's
right
in our books. It's in the books."
Yes.
And I couldn't. I think I was stunned. I was stunned, and no, I don't have, like, my oldest daughter, she passes out as soon as they put the IV in her arm, and I'm talking butterfly, okay, a butterfly needle, and she passes out. So you cannot compare me to her just because we have the same skin color and we're African American. Like, who does that?
Well, it comes from our society where we were pretty much raised like the farm animals, and we were used on plantations in the same way as, cattle.
Yeah. Right.
And so our bodies and their minds are stronger and built to take abuse and pain. And so now that has carried the way, America was. We built America and then on our Black bodies.
Right.
And we're still dealing with a lot of those stereotypes.
I know. And you know what? I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. It's brutal back there. Like, wintertime. That's -0, right?
And then the tumbleweeds that go. I was in Kansas City a few times.
Now listen,
and I'm standing out there, and I just saw it was a tumbleweed.
No,
this big went.
But listen,
down the street.
And I've been in LA for 14 years, and when I go back home, where my son and everybody's in shorts and stuff at 60 degrees, I'm freezing.
Yeah.
My point. Out here, our blood is thinner, I feel. So you cannot compare, but that's why patient advocacy, you have to open your mouth. You have to be your own cheerleader. You have to.
But wait a minute now. I can't let you go without talking about one of your biggest cheerleaders I met at the Pink Haus event, your daughter.
Oh, Anissa. So what you're referring to is the Shades of Pink luncheon. So,
the Shades of Pink luncheon.
So that's our signature event.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
But what your daughter shared just really, Anissa, she was your biggest I'm sure there were other advocates in your family, but she took on the role. Like, my mom is going to live. And I just love that. So I just wanted to bring that up, not to get too much in her business. But, as a family, we really need to learn about each other's medical history.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, I don't think I was diagnosed with thalassemia for years, which is a rare blood disorder.
Okay.
I just said, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. I barely even talk about it.
Right.
But my point is, I could have gotten so much help if my family would have educated themselves on what thalassemia is.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
our, so we
Yeah.
started to educate ourselves more because when I was carrying my youngest son, we were afraid he would have sickle thalassemia because
Okay.
my husband has a sickle cell trait. I have thalassemia.
Right.
So my youngest son could have had the full blown sickle thal, they call it,
Oh.
which is almost like it's one of the worst blood
Yeah.
disorders.
Yeah.
So my point of saying that is know about your family history. Be an
Right.
advocate for your family because a lot of times, like you mentioned, you were in that dark place. How many times have you
Yeah.
been in a hospital and you find that you're not getting the right care because you don't have an advocate there with you,
Oh my
advocating for
gosh.
you?
And so touching real quick on the family history.
Mm-hmm.
So my first diagnosis, it was all my mom's family, right? I
Mm-hmm.
thought about her and I was like, wait,
Mm-hmm.
my dad, let me find out about daddy's
Yeah.
side too. Found out about the cancers and all, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until the second diagnosis when I reconnected with a cousin on my dad's side and she said, "Oh yeah, our great grandmother passed away from breast cancer at I
Mm-hmm.
think 47 and then my cousin's aunt passed away from breast
Mm-hmm.
cancer and I think she was 43 between 43 and 45 and
Yeah.
my first diagnosis with of breast cancer I was 43.
Wow.
So I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I didn't have the BRCA 1 and 2, which is a genetic test, right? And the
Oh.
BRCA will tell you, okay,
Yeah.
this is genetic. Did not find any genetic
Yeah.
nothing both
Most of us
times,
don't even know
right?
what a BRCA is,
Right.
so
And
we wouldn't have
it's a
asked for a
genetic,
BRCA.
exactly. It's genetic testing.
And
And so I thought, wow,
mhm.
this is crazy. So again,
Wow.
the family history. And my dad's brother had stomach
Mm,
cancer, my grandmother ovarian cancer,
oh my
like all
goodness.
of these
Yeah.
different cancers.
Right.
And I'm like, wow,
Yeah, you
but
didn't
it
know.
was my great grandmother and my cousin
Mm-hmm.
who and she happened to be my second cousin
Mm-hmm.
and she, breast cancer in their
Wow.
40s.
It
In
is
their
so
40s.
important to know. And then I only could speak for my own family. It takes like an act of Congress and God to get any
Mhm.
information out of these people.
It
I'm like,
does.
well, what happened to what was, I can't even get the last names
Yeah.
of people, much less
Right,
how did they
right.
die. And
Yeah.
we got to do better.
We
I
do.
don't
We
even know what
have
else to
to.
say.
We have to.
We
And
got to do
so
better.
from that, so my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
Anissa, that you met,
Mm-hmm.
she's
She's so sweet.
25.
She's so cute.
And so thank you. And so both of my daughters, my doctor, my oncologist said they
Mm-hmm.
need to start being screened for breast
Mm-hmm.
cancer 10 years to my diagnosis. So I
Oh.
was 43. So
Mm-hmm. At
Kiara, my
33.
oldest daughter, she will need to be tested next year. She'll be
Mm-hmm.
33.
That makes
And then
sense.
Anissa, I think 23,
Yeah.
but we have such, like I said, we have such great doctors that they know my medical history. And so
Yeah.
whenever our general practitioner, who is a great friend,
Wow.
she'll let us know that, okay, Anissa, it's time for you. Not only women, men too.
Yes.
Men, because I found out from my research
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
mothers can pass on the gene, the
Mm-hmm.
BRCA, the breast cancer gene, to their sons.
Yeah.
So now there's more men being diagnosed with breast cancer,
Yeah.
and so I, even though the BRCA was negative for me, I
Mm-hmm.
still want my
What you're saying.
son to be, to
Yeah.
just feel, touch,
Mm-hmm.
make sure when you go to the doctor, let them know your
Yeah.
mother has had breast cancer twice. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and all of this again is a part of
Mm-hmm.
advocacies because
Mm-hmm.
with the Pink House, I always say we see you.
Yeah.
It's about survivorship and support. So supporting women who are currently going through treatment.
Yeah.
Survivorship, what does life look like after a breast cancer diagnosis, specifically triple negative?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you have been administered those three effective therapies, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's we're just sent off to live our lives.
Yeah.
Where your hormonal, your regular breast cancers, you're given a drug to take for the
Mm-hmm.
next 5-10 years to keep the cancer away. I feel like every man and woman who gets a cancer diagnosis should have been treated the way I was.
Yeah.
Like my
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
amazing story,
You
know.
really had a good
I did.
good
I
setup
really
with the
did.
people in your life.
And as much as I miss my grandbabies,
Mhm.
I will not move back to Kansas City because of my medical team. You know,
Yeah, that's
honestly.
important.
Yeah,
It's hard to find a good medical team.
it is.
Well,
It
let me
is.
ask you as we get ready to wrap up. I want to learn more about how can the people listening support the Pink House.
Funding.
Okay,
And
tell.
that is yes,
Yeah,
I
let's
need
talk.
the funding.
Yes, let's
Because
funding.
there are women
Yeah.
out here in treatment who do not have a way to
Right.
chemo. They may have children and they're single parents and they do not have the means, you know,
Right.
to and there may be I've received a grant after, you know, being a survivor to just go and get a massage, you know. And so we do need funding.
Yeah.
We really do. Because we did give away gift cards this year for the luncheon because we were able to raise enough donations. But in my perfect world with the Pink House, I would love to be able to give out $1,000 to those
Okay.
three, the
Right,
two
right.
breast cancer survivors, and then maybe 500 to
Got it.
the caregiver.
Okay.
But that's my goal. And
I appreciate
if I receive a call or an email and a survivor or someone a survivor going through treatment says, Carlin, you know, they're about to turn my lights off. If we can pay that to take, because it's already stressful enough
Yes.
to be going through surgery, chemo. I had 33 rounds of radiation and it tore me up.
Wow.
So, but I had my husband and my children, my mom. There's some women who are doing this alone and their parents, right? So if I could just take some of that burden off of them and pay a light bill, pay a gas bill, I would love to do that.
Okay, so what's your goal for 2025? How much money are you going to raise for the Pink House?
I would love to raise at least 25,000.
Oh, man, I thought you were going to say 2 million.
Well, I'm going to start small because I
point.
know within the next 2 years, it will be in the millions.
Okay.
So I'm going to give myself
that's
2
goal.
years.
All right. Well,
so 25,000.
We're going to have a link on where you can donate on in our notes.
Okay.
Wow. Well, we have so many people who say they want to start a nonprofit. So let's ask Mrs. HR. You can also ask Carlin. So please like, subscribe, share. Hey, the Diversity Dilemma is still, well, we're like number 200 now on Amazon.
Okay.
But we got to get back up.
Up.
And then we have the Diversity Dilemma coming on Audible in January, so you can listen to it. Please check out Mrs. HR in a Box. I'm going to gift your nonprofit Mrs. HR in a Box, which is a way to manage your employees. It's a product that I have to help you with all of the things like FMLA and CFRA and COBRA.
Yes.
And it has all of the things you need to make sure your business is compliant or your nonprofit, because a nonprofit is a business.
Yes.
And that's it. So thank you for spending time with us. This was so wonderful. I feel like I've grown and I need to change a lot of things in my own life. But this was a wonderful time. And I'll see you next time on the Ask Mrs. HR podcast. Like, subscribe, share.